The last week or so of Mariners games has been absolutely horrible. Getting blown out in Texas, the Mariners went on to San Diego, won the first game, looked all right at the plate there, and then in the second game went right back to getting blown out by giving up another 10 runs to the San Diego Padres. Something needs to change for this team, and it needs to change fast. And believe it or not, nobody has been more candid about that than Jerry Dipoto. He went on the 710 Seattle Sports Show like he does every single Thursday and talked about where the team is at and also what needs to change. And the very last point Dipoto makes in this video, I think is something we all really need to take a hard look at, because as Mariners fans, we're all frustrated right now. We see you. We're frustrated as well. So make sure to stick around for that last point, because Jerry kinda opened my eyes a little bit. One of the first things that Jerry Dipoto talked about on this show was that guys like Kolten Wong, AJ Pollock, etc., they're not performing up to their career norms, and how nobody could have predicted that.
No, it's delicate whenever you talk about individuals. It's much easier collectively in looking at the collective group and the struggles. But, you know, to see Kolten and AJ in particular, two guys brought in to join this new core, and to just see, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, those are two guys whose numbers aren't a little bit off from their baseball card, long resume of baseball card. They are dramatically off. What do you see going on with those two?
Again, you know, just like I see with the collective group, I wish I could give you a logical answer to that question. And Kolten Wong entered the season with a 260 career batting average. He's hitting 150. I don't know really how to answer that. We're 2 months into a season, you know, and this is a guy who's averaged 13 homers and 25 plus doubles with bags. You know, he steals almost 20 bags a year, and he has not done those things. And, you know, AJ Pollock over the last 3 years is a 600 slug against left-hand pitching. You know, right now it's a very low number. I think it's 120. So those aren't numbers that you can make up. And it's not just AJ and Kolten. You know, it's up and down our lineup. It's guys who've been here. It's guys who were brought in. And, you know, I'd like to tell you that I feel great about the offseason moves we make. It's impossible to tell you that. They haven't really driven our team or helped to achieve what we wanted to achieve. And frankly, I can't really cite them as the biggest problem. The biggest problem is it's happening collectively to our offensive club.
In his career, Kolten Wong is a 257, 331, 391 hitter with a 97 career OPS plus. In 2023, however, Kolten Wong is hitting 153, 246, 178 with a 25 OPS plus. Obviously, the worst marks of his entire career. AJ Pollock is a career 273, 329, 466 hitter with a 111 OPS plus, but in 2023, he's hitting 160, 229, 319 with a 55 OPS plus. Teoscar Hernandez has a 119 OPS plus through his career, but in 2023 is down to just a 97, hitting 243, 283, 417. His 162 game average is 33 home runs, but in 2023, he's not even going to come close to that number if he keeps performing the way that he has been. These guys are not performing up to their career norms, and no matter what you say in the comments, nobody could have predicted that, especially the guy that went out there and signed him. And Jerry Dipoto is honestly taking the blame for all of these guys underperforming. He said that he's the one that put these guys on the field. He understands that, and he said that he could never have predicted that they would be this bad.
What does accountability look like in a situation like this?
I guess I don't understand what the question is. Accountability, you know, I'm accountable for putting the players on the field that are underperforming. You know, the players are accountable to upholding their approach, and that's all we ever ask of them is to uphold the approach. But we don't and can't focus on the week to week. We have had a crummy week, and there's no getting around that. Emotion in sports generally flies to the point where, you know, if we have a 2-6 week like we've just had, you know, 8 games where we've underperformed to the extreme that we have, people get upset, and that's the way it works. You know, the previous week when we were 7-3, there wasn't as much emotion. You know, right now we are in the middle of the emotion, and when people experience, you know, negative emotion, they're looking for somebody to blame. You know, I don't really know anybody to blame but me. This is what we put together, and we're a 500 team. I don't think we intended to be a 500 team by the time we got to this point in the season. I don't think this makes us a bad team. I think it makes us a very talented team who has struggled a lot, especially in the batter's box. And we have to find our way out of it because we do have the talent.
The offseason additions have been wildly talked about for the Seattle Mariners for the last 6-7 months, and obviously with them not performing up to what we have expected from them, it's no surprise that people are then going after the front office and saying, well, these guys, well, why didn't we go sign this guy? Why didn't we go sign this guy? On our Twitter the other day, however, we talked about how hard it is to just predict how these guys are going to do. Every single one of the guys on this list were someone that we talked about during the offseason as the Mariners' potential to sign them. All of these guys were players that fans were pounding the table for, and as you can see, none of them have performed up to their career norms. Obviously, Jose Abreu's 49 OPS plus, probably not going to stick around like that. Trey Turner at a 79 OPS plus, probably not going to stick around like that. Obviously, this tweet was from June 5th, but I digress. Still, the point remains the same. There are, of course, a few guys that have been hitting really well, including Brandon Nimmo, JD Martinez, Dansby Swanson, Brandon Drury, Cody Bellinger, and Michael Conforto. But that is 6 guys that we talked about during the offseason compared to like the 20 that we have up here that were also talked about. It just so happens that the guys the Mariners got aren't performing either. The cynicism from fans is not surprising. We've seen this fan base freak out every time anything happens. And honestly, I don't blame fans for that. Mariners went through 20 years of a playoff drought. I mean, let's be honest, that's good reason to freak out. There are the fans, however, saying that the Mariners needed to spend more money this offseason or sign more free agents. Look at how most of them have turned out so far. Not good. And Jerry Dipoto talks about that a little bit when he says it's not just the offseason acquisitions that are the problem. It is the whole lineup, guys that have been here for years.
If you watch Tuesday night's game against San Diego, despite the fact that we scored, we only scored 4 runs, we did a phenomenal job of driving counts, of creating opportunities. And, we still struck out. But, we put ourselves in position to do damage. And then when we got in that position, we did it. And, we knocked the starter out early. We drove pitch count. That's what Mariners offense looks like when it's going. And then yesterday we came out and we didn't do that. And, I don't know why maintaining that focus or sustaining that approach from day to day has been so hard for our team, but it has been. And, that's where we need to see our adjustment. And it's, I said, up and down the lineup. It's not Colton Wong or AJ Pollock. It's not Tommy La Stella or the fact that we didn't sign a DH. It's that collectively we are all underperforming. And it started with me in putting together the roster and believing that we were in a position to do this collectively. And we haven't done it. And I wish I had a better explanation for we're not old. The back of the baseball card is proof positive that these guys are good major league players. And sooner or later, we'll get to that. I don't think that we've seen the ends of the productive careers of Gino Suarez and Teoscar Hernandez and Colton Wong and up and down. I refuse to believe that we just watched a complete lineup of good major league players, stop being good major league players. It's illogical.
Guys like AJ Pollock, Teoscar Hernandez, Colton Wong, etc., when you look at the back of these guys' baseball cards, what reason do you have to believe that they're not going to perform up to those numbers? They've all done it for years now, years and years. Just because they haven't done it in the first 2 months doesn't mean they're not going to perform to those norms. But you have to look at the whole lineup, not just the guys that they added during the offseason. Look at Julio Rodriguez, look at Jared Kelenic, look at JP Crawford, Ty France. These guys are not performing to what they know they can. They're trying to hit a home run that'll make them in the all-star conversation. They're trying to break out of their own slumps and not focusing on the team. And like I said, Dipoto got really candid about this. He said that he just doesn't know. He does not understand how it's possible that every single one of these players are playing so poorly right now. Sure, every once in a while you have a couple guys that go through a slump here and there, right? But never do you see an entire lineup that has been this inconsistent and this bad with so many star-studded players. Guys, this does not happen in Major League Baseball, which is why I think there's reason to believe that it's not going to continue the rest of the year. There's just no way that all these guys can be this bad all at the same time for this long. While I'm in the camp that the Mariners are going to figure it out, there are plenty of reasons to say, hey, no, they're not. This is the team that they are. There's no cohesion here. It's so hard to watch this team night in and night out and see them struggle when we all know what they're capable of. So what does that mean for the MLB trade deadline coming up at the beginning of August? Well, Jerry Dipoto talked about that and the players that could be had and what he thinks could help fix the Mariners. And I think this might open your eyes a little bit because he gets kind of deep here.
We have had teams check in. We have checked in with a number of teams in what I would call preliminary, trade deadline conversations. it's impossible for us to assess where we will be. And this is just being honest. We could go out and acquire prime Babe Ruth, and it's not going to help us. We're not one player away or, one magic salve from fixing this. This is a commitment from 26 players on a roster to reverse our course. And if we, between now and the end of July, if we show progress in that way, then we'll go out and solve what problem, or problems we can solve. But we're not going to flip out our roster for 6 or 8 new players. Again, I feel we are young, we are sustainable, and we are struggling. And, the worst time to make decisions is when you're at your worst. So I think the appropriate measure is take a deep breath, watch what's happening around the league for these next 30, 40 days, and put yourself in a position to make a difference when it comes that time. But, to think, oh my gosh, we need to trade all these guys and start over, that's absurd. We built this. It's a good team. We're coming off back-to-back 90-win seasons. We're 500. We don't have 15 wins today. We just had a really crummy week.
It's not one guy. It's going to take more than just trading for a couple of guys for this team to become what it needs to be. It means that these guys need to figure it out. They need to pull their heads out, and they need to start playing like the baseball team that everyone knows they can be and what the back of their baseball cards say. There would be no greater addition to this lineup right now than for Julio Rodriguez to be the guy that he was last year, or Teoscar Hernandez to be the guy he was last year. No greater addition that you can have at the trade deadline in 2023 that could make that kind of noise. And Dipoto basically said the next month or so of baseball is really going to show them how they're going to go at this trade deadline. Are they going to make some trades to try to fill the holes, or are they going to stand pat? Because he says there's absolutely no reason to get rid of some of the young guys on this team because they are so young and their window of opportunity is now. And if this isn't the year for them, so be it. If that's the case, trading Teoscar Hernandez, trading Kolten Wong if you can, or any of these guys that are on the end of their contracts, it's just smart baseball. But you're not going to go out and trade from your core. You're not going to trade any of your young guys just because you're 5 games back of the wild card one. It's not going to happen. Dipoto makes a really good point. He says that 2 weeks ago we were sitting 7-3 on the homestand and nobody was making a sound. Everyone was saying that, okay, now we figured it out. Then you go on this road trip from hell and now everybody has a voice. Looking at the bigger picture is something I have not really been doing this season. I've been so cynical about this team, and I just need to look at the fact that they're gonna get it going. They have to, because if they don't, season's over. Jobs are on the line. The next 30 days or so for the Seattle Mariners are the most important in recent memory. Of course, with the All-Star game coming here as well, all eyes are going to be on Seattle. And when it comes to the trade deadline, how the Mariners play is going to affect what they trade for. And Jerry Dipoto talked about that in this video on the screen now. Appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.